Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell does anyone at Celtic care now, really, from what we've seen in that performance? Celtic have drawn 0-0 with Kairat Almaty in the Champions League qualification playoff for the 25-26 season, in a game that was painfully predictable, painfully forecastable, from the most pessimist of Celtic fans right up to pretty much just the ones that are really in touch with reality and have watched the games that have unfolded. Not even just this season, but some early telltale signs of some problems that we've seen even last season as we started to sell some players and not replace them appropriately. And now it all comes down to the second leg that we're going to be going away after playing Livingston at the weekend. We've got a very thin squad to manage, and in the video today we'll kind of look at this in two parts. Of course, I'm going to start by focusing on the game, what we've seen, how it actually panned out, where opportunities were missed and not taken or whatever it might be. We'll do the player ratings and the usual stuff there, and then we'll kind of do the ranty stuff kind of at the end of the video. So we'll get through all of it, I'm sure. At any point, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something, maybe you cry a little bit, I don't know. Whatever. If you don't laugh, you cry. Come on, guys. Please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Hit the like button if you can. Just supports the channel. I know you maybe not like the kind of vibe that's going around at the moment, but yeah, just supports the channel. And I tell you what, if we can get to 200 likes on this video, we'll do a live watch along for the away leg, and we'll crack the software out, and we'll do the board as the game goes out, and we'll have a wee kind of fun watch along. So if we can get to 200 likes on this, actually, I've just looked at the statistics. We actually get 200 likes on videos quite easily, quite often, which is great to see. That's some support from you guys, by the way. So let's say if we can get to 250 likes on this video, we'll do a live watch along, and we'll try and lift the spirits, I guess, going into the match, because it is, we said coming into this one, it was going to be cup final mentality, you know, and you can really see that from Kairat. They came into this game playing for a draw, and they got out of paradise with the draw. And yeah, I guess let's just get stuck straight into it. Now, part of the feedback we got in the last video, cracking the new software out, was the colour of the board and the texture of it and whatever. So I'm going to go with the setting that DAZN uses for this software, which is the black and white one. But if you would rather this kind of green, let me know. Otherwise, the rest of the options, this is I think what we had in the first place. The rest of the options are not really worth looking at, I don't think. I quite like the black, because I know a lot of people that watch stuff on their phones and all the rest of it just like dark mode, so it might work out quite well. And the highlighter feature is really nice as well. So I'm gonna go with this one, and yeah, feedback in the comment section. Knock yourself out. Now, for me, coming into the game, it was 100% all eyes on Adam Maeda. You know, just the way even the season has started, and you know, you guys, and there's a lot to get through in this video, right? So I'm really sorry if I'm all over the place to get running, right? But I'm kind of past, I've been past it for a while on this channel, the transfer fee and all that kind of stuff. It's just about the player, it's just about the effectiveness on the pitch, effectiveness at doing the job, as it were. And for me, coming into this game, this was a game where it was all eyes on Adam Maeda. Now, I do think Kairat did a pretty good job of being the pesky, you know, away team coming to paradise that we have played countless times over the last couple of years. They sat in a nice little box defence. They had their fullbacks in really narrow, same kind of width as the box. They had two defensive midfielders. This is very Aberdeen, isn't it? You know, two defensive midfielders in front of the back four, and then with Sapiev on one side. I'm not even too sure this guy was up to too much, but Jorginho certainly was diving like prime Juventus players. You know, he was just on the deck so often. They had some guys to try and break into space with, and obviously they just left one big striker up to try and get on the end of any mistakes and any errors that might have came his way, which obviously he did, which was a bit of a nail-biting situation in the first half, certainly. But this is nothing new for Celtic. This is something that we should be very accustomed to breaking down. And the way we normally go about this is exactly the way we went about this game as well. We set everyone up, knock the ball around a little bit, just to, you know, move the team around and do all that kind of stuff, kind of wear them out, death by a thousand paper cut kind of activity, you know. And then once we build it into a nice position where, you know, they are deep, they are defensive, they are maybe shuffling from one side to the other to try and accommodate the change in the space and all the rest of it, we then find Forrest, we then find Maeda on the ball. And really in the first half for me, like, I don't know what it was about Forrest, but he so often was coming inside and going around the defence. You know, we'd maybe have these guys kind of backing into the box, doing their thing, with all of our danger men on the outside of the castle wall, as it were. And James Forrest, for the amount, we went down the right hand side so often in the first half, and Forrest was effective at being very Jack Grealish. You know, he never really gave the ball away. He never he was taking people on, right? But when he was taking people on, he was coming inside, and I don't know what it is. Him and Negren have little moments where they do link up quite nicely where, depending on how possession has been worked, Negren maybe flicks a wee ball to Forrest. Forrest is on his toes, he's moving forward, and then starts to come inside, and then maybe Negren makes a run like this, and Forrest is just never finishing that link-up play. I thought in the first half there was 2 or 3 opportunities where Negren was finding himself in situations where he wasn't quite spitting the dummy or anything like that, but if you were really watching him, you could see those moments where he was like, oh, come on, man, pass to me there, find me. And there was a few more opportunities where we could have been a bit more direct, because it's this middle zone in here. And I don't know how much of this I'll use, but this software does have a lot of cool little toys. So if we do filter it by the half spaces, as it's known, we're constantly looking for players to be coming out of this zone here, no matter whether it's Forrest or Maeda, even Hatate and Negren. These are the sort of areas where we're looking to get the creative player on the ball, and then from there, can we find the striker? Is there a run going into the box or overlapping that we can play, or even taking some shots? But when we were getting the ball into this type of zone here, there was just no invention, there was just no decision. Everyone was very indecisive. And when the ball was a bit deeper, there was a big cry out for Maeda especially to be dropping into these little half spaces himself, get a little touch on the ball, and then run back on and try and penetrate through the middle with any balls that might be coming in from Forrest or Maeda. But Maeda, as we've seen enough times, his crossing is just not good. There's no problem with that. Maeda isn't a winger, that's been all clear for everyone to see. He's a wide forward. That's his kind of position where he wants to be attacking into these types of spaces here that we were just highlighting. That's where you get the most out of him. And the way we try and do that for the most part is by focusing on the right, so he can really tuck in and then just be in the shadow of the striker. But we weren't putting balls of good enough quality in, and the odd occasions when we were snapping it to the edge of the box, maybe with Forrest, maybe with Hatate or whatever, we're then trying to play Maeda in behind the defence with a lofty ball into a very narrow, very tight space where more often than not it's going to go out for a goal kick if the goalkeeper isn't able to actually catch it himself. And their keeper, fair play to him, was putting body on the line the whole game here. And for all intents and purposes, this was just a moving feast in itself. Scales, Vickers and this striker were all just kind of playing in relation to one another. And Tierney and AJ, we've also seen AJ leaving the pitch injured for Ralston later in the game. But again, this is a match where I'm looking at the captain McGregor, and if no one else is really overloading and penetrating in here, if everything's kind of taken care of defensively, and really between McGregor, Hatate and Negren, they are all relatively interchangeable. Didn't really feel McGregor ever trying to really push the envelope himself, and that's probably the only thing I would really hold against him. I actually thought defensively McGregor was really on point, really did a good job of shielding in and behind the defence here. It was quite easy, I think, by SPFL standards. I'm not sure how many of these guys would get a game in any of the top, the top teams in our division. Certainly the guy Sapayev, who's obviously going to Chelsea or whatever, looked decent. This guy Topalov or whatever, he won a fair amount of duels. He was made to look good, I think. And the centre backs, again, I think they had a bit of an easy time of it, because Maeda didn't really make it hairy for them. Didn't really have too much to feed on, in fairness to the big man. But where I did think it was really slow and really not being direct in the first half was just a lack of link up really with Negren from Forrest. Was the main thing I just seen more than once. And again, relying on Maeda out on this left hand side here, if we're not, again, in these situations, surely this is when we kind of maybe say to Tierney, right, empty the tank a little bit more. Brendan Rodgers coming into this game was talking about how he's changing his tactics, his philosophy from a really intense 10 minutes to doubling up the first 5 minutes and make the first 5 minutes even super intensive and trying to lift the ante on it, which is a lovely thing to try and implement or whatever, but there's not much actually happening from the players to show that there's a real impetus getting given in that regard. Yeah, we've seen Hatate kind of pressing up off the ball whenever Kairat were maybe the ball was with their keeper and they were maybe trying to kill the time a little bit, and they would spread the team out, pretend they're going to go long, then maybe play short or go long anyway. It was just too much a second gear where there just wasn't that real push on from the team. I just, we all felt it. It's kind of hard to really explain beyond, those are the only moments in the match I kind of felt and looked at and thought the Gren should have probably been found there. And Ralston, I thought, putting a really solid shift in this game. And Anthony Ralston is exactly the sort of player we need to come in the, out of the frying pan into the fire kind of guy. Come on, in a DEFCON kind of situation. One of the most important players in the team, one of the best players this season, leaves the pitch injured. And Ralston had a really good solid shift in this game. Played some night, he tried to go direct. He could see some space once in a while to try and play those longer balls, and he tried it. He went for it. And there was some occasions as well where, we were getting Forrest on the ball to go round the outside of the castle, as we spoke about earlier, because Ralston went really advanced and did hold some of those really high positions to just give them some extra food for thought on that right-hand side. And, I was seeing some people in the aftermath of the game kind of saying like, oh, look at where we are bringing on Ralston or whatever. But genuinely, for a 24, 25-man squad, however you're going to think of it as, I don't think there's anyone better in the squad. Who are you realistically going to have other than Ralston to do this? And, I've got, let's see how long Johnson's out for, but certainly for the immediate future, I've got no problem with Ralston playing. I thought he did absolutely fine in this game and did help keep the ball coming down the right-hand side in the first half, certainly. Now, I think we all felt that in the second half there should have been a change of some kind. And, it's funny, so many of you guys in the comment section and the live chat have been saying, get Dyson back up front, get Dyson back up front. And I just have thought, similar to what we've seen with Negren, and even the way Brendan used to talk about Dyson and his importance of his goals coming from a wide area, was he is like just going to stick to this, no, Dyson's playing wide, he's not playing up front malarkey. But at half time, Maeda comes off, Maeda goes through the middle, and Yang comes on to play left wing, in a move that I didn't see coming. Brendan Rodgers has certainly showed form for playing Maeda through the middle, and this really shows now the chips are down, for Rodgers. That's the way he sees it coming into this second half, is we're not looking like creating anything. They're actually the ones that have hit the back of the net in the first half, by the way, and fair enough, it was offside, but not by that much, and it was Negren that was the offside trap, it wasn't the defence, and it was, in another night, we could have been 1-0 down at half-time. And yes, we had a chance as well that we kind of hit the post with. Keeper did all right from Forrest, didn't he? Whatever. But we were going nowhere fast. And Yang, from kickoff, Yang gives you a little bit of what Yang gives you. And that is, he's on the front foot, he's direct, he wants to take people on. The thing with Yang is, again, we've seen in this match, is it just doesn't always come off. He doesn't actually manage to... And, the thing is all he needs to do is actually connect with the team a little bit better. If he's able to play a ball, after he takes the right back out of the situation, if he's able to play the ball that finds the striker, job done. That's all you're really asking for from the winger. We're not asking for him to score from the edge of the box. We're not asking for him to beat three guys and then play a world of a ball in. All we're asking for Yang to do is kind of do what he does, which is beat a guy. He can beat a guy, no bother. But it's then linking with someone else, getting his shot away or whatever, and he offered a little bit of that pep, a little bit of that zest right into the second half that, the manager's quoted after the game is saying that we needed, and I would certainly agree. But I was rather surprised that Maeda was taken off at halftime, because I don't think that lack of vigour really was changed too much by Dyson going through the middle. It was more Yang on the wing, to be quite honest with you. He was willing to really take a man on and be quite successful with it. Maeda, just hasn't really been peak, and Dyson has never been a brilliant dribbler, he's never been a brilliant crosser, it's just a reality of it. But I think having him through the middle maybe gives the rest of the players a wee bit more of, okay, we've got Dyson to play to now, so we've got different balls. Dyson does drop into the pockets, has little one-touch giveaways, and then it's very quick to then return to be back on the last line of defence to try and get in the end of some balls and all the rest of it. So it was a move that I think worked and really did keep us in the match. But with this block that they had in front of their box, the only times where we looked really dangerous was the odd occasion where we got Hatate coming over. Maybe Negren would be dragged a little bit wider to play with Forrest, because if Ralston wasn't really high, this was more in the first half. Second half, it was a bit more kind of just holding the right back area, wasn't he? So we would get Negren coming out a lot wider. Whenever we got Hatate drifting over to this zone, and when we were able to actually just get the numbers back in our favour, despite the fact that they would, follow us over, they wouldn't make it easy. But we needed more players to get on the ball to just be successful in maintaining a little phase of play. And then, Hatate, I don't think it was that great in this game. He got better as the game went on, in fact, and it was really the final ebbs and flows of the game after we got Arne Engels onto the pitch. Forrest comes off, Engels comes on to his less preferred right side of midfield, in my opinion, and we get good energy, we get good, zest, I think, as well out of Engels. I think he adds a little bit something extra into it. And Negren, within 2 touches of being in the wing position, I forget who plays him the ball, it's not in the highlight package, but within 1 second of being the right winger, someone plays him the ball, he takes 1 touch and moves back inside the pitch, and then straight away comes back in on himself, creates a nice angle for then the striker, which is Maeda, to then run into, and just pops a ball straight away into that channel. And it was like, wow, someone's actually played a ball into the box. Isn't that incredible? And it didn't come off, and sadly it didn't persist for too much longer. Engels did well, without, again, really doing too much. And I did think that Engels coming on and maybe just because when the Gren was in here, and the Gren is liable to come out into the wide areas, and because Engels was holding a bit more central, we just got Hatate off the leash a little bit more after this. We then ran out of gas for Tierney, of course, and we moved Scales into left back and bring on Trusty. Now, honestly, again, there's a very few players in this game that I would, say, good shift tonight, big man too, right? And Liam Scales is definitely one of them, because really, as this game wore on, Scales effectively just went up front. He was coming on from left back, and Scales, similar to Yank, there's just, you can't make people care, but see, when you see people really care and really just, let's just make this happen, let's throw the kitchen sink at it. Scales knows he's a big left back, and he was alright. He wasn't like bombing on and crossing the ball in or anything like that, but he was kind of taking the Greg Taylor role, and just, Hatate was maybe spraying himself out a bit wider and was getting some crosses in and was playing some balls in from deep, and Scales was just getting up here, just in that inverted left back kind of, let's just pretend I'm Greg Taylor for 5 minutes and just going on the line. Sure, we got some more set pieces and him and Vickers were going up for them more and more, and Liam Scales was our biggest goal threat in this game by no exaggeration in this, whether it be from open play or from set pieces, and doesn't that just tell its own story really in itself? We then get Negren coming on for Shin. Off for Shin, I beg your pardon. Maeda goes back to the left, Yang comes out to the right, which is probably his less preferred situation, and Shin comes on. And again, I think from Shin, he is probably the most physically capable striker we've got to play on the shoulder of the last man. He's strong, he's quick, he's hungry, but he just never seems to really get on the end of anything, and I think that might come down to distribution a little bit, and one or two times maybe he's just not strong enough, maybe he's just not quick enough, that just kind of thing happens. But when he's running shoulder to shoulder with somebody, I'm like, go on wee man, go on, get there. Whereas with Ida, he's not really been doing that this year, and again, you can look at Ida from last season and he does have that in him, but it's just not been coming, has it? And Kenny makes those runs, but doesn't have, like, Shin looks like he's got a little bit more about him. And again, when he first comes on, you feel that maybe this guy could just be the difference. He's just got that little bit of zest to go with that little bit of strength, and something might happen. But they just get deeper and narrower. There's less space to run into. And when you've got Scales up there, we're relying on balls from deep from Ralston and Engels. We're playing Hatate on the kind of free rein, go anywhere, go everywhere. Dyson is essentially, even though he's went to left wing, he's basically just going up front again, isn't he? In this time as well, of course, they've lost their goalkeeper. And the backup goalkeeper that comes on, he didn't even have anything to do. And this is what gave me a really big deja vu to games that have gone by in the past against like Zagreb and Bruges, where like there's been so many games, and we even had a better team for those matches, you would say. But it's just through the way the team is built and the kind of angles we're looking to exploit, which are always coming from outside the castle wall here. We've got very little direct, and Negren gives us some of that when the team is firing and when we're clearly better than the other team, but he's not a one-man army. And I think we've really pushed him, like we're getting as much out of him as possible, we're getting as much out of Hatate as possible, and it's just not quite clicking with the front line. The front line is where we've seen very predictably coming into this game would be the question mark, would be the problem. We tried virtually every combination of players we possibly could, and none of it was really enough to make that breakthrough, to make it happen. And yes, there was the odd chance that we did hit the post in the first half, and there was one or two other little bits and bobs that were halfway okay. And on another night, Dyson Maeda, again, his chance is probably the most glaring, and he had one of these again the other day, didn't he? Where he snatched at it, he took it one touch, and on this occasion, I seen him doing it, and I thought, yes, great decision, but he's just not made good purchase on it. He did kind of hold his leg afterwards, so maybe he felt a little bit of a wee bit of cramp hitting him when he was taking the shot or whatever. But Dyson Maeda has to finish that. I think if we're putting onus and expectation the way we are on Adamida, Dyson Maeda should have won this game for us when it's all said and done. And I think in the cold light of day, looking back at it, I know how I felt after the game, and I've tried to put that across as much as I can here on the board with yous. But I know after watching back the highlights before coming on to watching doing the video with yous, Dyson really should have made it 1-0 at the end. There's just no getting away from it. And looking at the team that finished the game, it doesn't make for much optimism in the front line, does it? I'm not really going to labour this too much. We got a clean sheet. The defenders got lots of touches in the game, so of course statistically they're going to come out of this shining brightly. You can really just look at the ratings in this game and just imagine touches, because the amount of possession we had, that's basically all it is successful passes and winning some duels and stuff like that. James Forrest in this game, big chance created, 0, 1 attempted assist, and for the amount of times he was on the ball and for how much the ball went down the right hand side, We need Forrest to give us one. Again, he was unlucky with his shot. The goalkeeper did do well, but he is one of the players certainly that was a lot more active in the final third. Got 49 out of 100 rating from the passes that he did make, etc. And I would have expected a little bit more out of him. I was hopeful Negren could have been a bit more effective in this game. Again, I just don't think he was really found too much. It just felt that the rest of the team were not really in sync with him. And maybe you could put that as criticism to Negren. I look at it as maybe the team just... And you kind of seen it with the Carter Vickers error. Maybe just a little bit of Ross County autopilot at times, just kind of kicking in and not seeing that, like, oh, there's a run, let's play, something a bit different in rather than what's been worked on the training ground. And again, for the amount of corners and set pieces and stuff, the Negren stats aren't particularly great. I don't think he really grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck. Hatate grew into the game, became more effective as the match went on. But again, really one shot on goal. No big chances created, no attempted assists. So what that tells you is the balls he's playing, no one's making shots off them. They're going nowhere, essentially. 11 missed passes. Some of them were pretty bad in the first half especially, and some of them in the second half were just maybe a bit unlucky. Crowded defences, strikers that weren't really up to much, and whatever as well. And yeah, there's not really much to say about the ratings, to be honest with you. Now, in the stands of this game, we had pictured Peter Lawwell and... the Boyd Nicholson, or whatever his name is, the other guy, the CEO guy. We shouldn't care who these people are. They should not be the centre of what is making the difference on the pitch or not, and that is really the sad reality of it. I was talking about it recently on a stream where, like, Celtic, there's so much taken for granted, like, in terms of the incumbent staff, the board, the people that are running the show, calling the shots there, where if you were in any other club in European and world football, selling season tickets, the volume of strips that we sell, the interest, and fair enough, like, the TV deals we've got aren't like fantastic in Scotland or whatever, right? But Celtic still does really well on almost every metric except for like TV money compared to every other club in the world. That's why Celtic is an institution. It is one of the biggest clubs in the world because it has organic, genuine, hardcore fan bases all over the world. And the club has got such a rich history, especially in Europe, of doing well. And we had a glimmer, we had a taste of it last season. And those guys were in attendance for Bayern Munich. And we did content on the channel. You guys said it in the comment section that hopefully they see that, wow, if we just replaced Kyogo, we could have beat Bayern Munich. And that would have got us, you were hoping their greed would work to everyone's advantage. But sadly, their fear or their hesitation or whatever is getting the better of them. Yeah, and no one really knows what it is. Brendan is basically now saying in press conferences, I can't tell you what's actually going on. There's stuff I would love to get you up to speed with, but I can't. And all I can do as the manager is focus on the team and talk about, this, that, and the other thing, which only lends itself to the fact that what everyone is kind of mumbling about, or, there is murmurs and rumours around, and the disconnect and everything it's just so much of it must be true, which is painfully sad, because Celtic as a football club has the potential to be so much more than what it is, and we could not be, and this is the painful thing, right? And the board really should appreciate this from their own selfish point of view as well. And I never, I like to be fair with everyone as possible, right? And Celtic could not be in a better position in any way, shape or form to make the step up now and to join our counterparts on the continent, the other teams that are dominant forces in lesser domestic kind of situations. That again, when you compare them to us, season ticket sales, merch, everything, yada yada, Celtic and these other outfit, Dutch and Belgians and Portuguese and all the rest of it, they're not even anywhere near us. Maybe one or two of them are. Maybe I'm being a bit, extreme there. But we've spent the money on Lennoxtown. We've spent the money on Barrowfield. We have the bank balance. We have the manager. We have so much of a squad there already. It literally just needs the bullets. It just needs the firepower. It just needs the ammunition. And the tough reality of football is scoring goals is the hardest thing to do, which means guys that have the potential to do it and they're younger, up and coming, they're really showing a lot of promise, or guys that have been there, seen it, done it, and have shown proof in the pudding they can do it, cost a lot of money, because that is the difference between 0-0 draws at home to Kairat Almaty. Imagine like we get through this, right? That forward line is nowhere near as dangerous, as scary, as effective, as plucky, anything you want to give it, as it was last year. Kyogo, Maeda and Kuhn, against anyone there was fear. That is pace. That is like, if you're dominating Celtic and you're on them, you're dominating possession because you're Bayern Munich or whoever it might have been, when they turn the ball over, they are going to be flying. And, you know, you look at our front three at the moment and nobody is going to be worried about that. We did a video on the channel this week, AI picks the best Celtic team 11 ever. And our DNA, even according to AI, you know, which is unbiased, like, is attacking football, goal scoring players all over the pitch, free scoring, foot down, and especially at home, take no prisoners. You know, this is paradise. This is our castle, and, you know, we win here. We don't care who you are. And so much of that 0-0 draw really just epitomises everything that is going wrong at the club. And I've even seen some tweets and some posts out there from other fans of other Scottish clubs, and there's, you know, like, anyone who thinks Celtic fans are out of place or disconnected, arrogant, or, you know, entitled is a word I always see kind of levied at Celtic fans as well, just doesn't get it, man. It's sport, it's entertainment, it's a club as well, it's got history, it's got legacy, it's got like a firm DNA around it. And where we are in the 21st century, it's 2025, where Premier League clubs are swapping hundreds of millions of pounds because players are English. Like, genuinely, that's the way it's going right now. And we are not pushing the button on £5-6 million euro transfers when there's the thick end of 100 million quid on the bank, and basically the promise of another 60 odd million this time next year by getting into the Champions League, scoring some goals, winning some games and all the rest of it, like we did last year. It has went beyond we know better. And again, this is why I'm saying the board should be looking at this from their own selfish point of view, because part of the reason that we're in such a great position of strength where we should be pushing now is really because of the board. You know, didn't spend big in the Dyla years, didn't spend big really, and I think like Lennon spent some money here and there, like Julian wasn't cheap, and, you know, 1 or 2 hours we spent some money under Brendan, but for the most part, when we didn't need to spend money, that was always kind of half the promise they were selling us down the road, is, you know, we're looking after the club here, this will pay off tomorrow kind of vibe, and tomorrow's here. You know, like, all that, you know, I remember first getting into Celtic content, especially like doing AXOM stuff or whatever, I've always referred to this as the dial tax, you know, like we are now, and I felt that we benefited from it a little bit under Brendan certainly, and I felt that we're starting to really feel the benefit of it under Ange, and then, as you know, maybe Brendan started to spend some money last year, like, yeah, this is all that crap earlier on is paying off now. We've also got other investments being made where one of the big problems at Celtic is that we don't have a really good youth system. We're not bringing players through. Don't even get me started on the Ben Doak situation, or even Liam Morrison, who's playing at QPR at the moment, that no one really speaks about. But we've made the investment, you know, like, they've kind of looked at it, and really from the board's point of view right now, as things stand, they cannot do any more for youth development. They have built the infrastructure that's being built and all the rest of it. They've appointed people, they're trying to put stuff in place, and that's great. We would want that. If we didn't have that, we'd be screaming out for it. Where's our youth academy? It's getting built, it's getting done, the training ground's cool, everyone loves it. Maybe it could get another lick of paint or something, who knows. But they have actually, the board are the ones that have set the table. They have set the table now for all of us to expect. Adidas deals, the lights. Do you remember the year we spent the money on the lights, and people were joking that was our summer transfer budget, you know? And at the time, it was like, it was a bit of a flex, spending 3 million on lights or whatever it was. It was a little bit over the top at the time. It was quite nice, I think, for the Leipzig match. It might have been Europa League, right enough. But then, you know, see, now that we're in the Champions League, the lights are brilliant, you know, and they really do amplify, they really do give us our kind of personality again, kind of on the big stage, for being a venue and being, you know, authentically characteristic. It's got its own thing about it, and that's not Football Managers. You know, the board have, like, they are the ones that have really got our expectations to where they should be right now, because there's so much that they can't really do any more of now at this point. They have been, you know, talking about being world class and such a big club, and with Peter Lawwell, we've always kept in with these European boards to make sure that, you know, like, you know, to make no mistake about it, the way Europe is structured now really benefits us, and that's not a huge surprise or coincidence or anything like that. All the reaction to Super League and whatever is because of the powerful clubs outside of the big 3 or 4 clubs in England want some of that money, you know, and we have never been closer to that kind of money now because of the Champions League. We got a massive taste of that. We earned more money from UEFA last year than Tottenham, an English Premier League team that won the Europa League, which is mind-blowing how much money we made last year, and we could do that again this year. Everything is there, and I thought, seeing them on the TV last night, hopefully they go home embarrassed. They go home with like a resolve of, oh, do you know what, man, we need to just We need to push the boat out. We need to take not even take the chance, but just actually wake up and be a football team. You know, sign some players to replace the ones you've sold. It's absolute basics. You could not have a better manager. You've got club icons in the club. You've got Premier League winning goalkeepers, really solid defenders for the most part, and like a good core of a squad that does just need those stars dropped into it now. I loved McGregor's comments post-match. We just need to go away and win, and that's no problem. We'll do it. Brendan Rodgers was quite confident post-match, but his kind of, you know, take on where we sit in the tie and all the rest of it as well. Kairat Almaty, make no mistake about it, they had got exactly what they wanted out of this game. And next week, you know, their best player is suspended, which is a mild, like, little stroke of luck going into that game. It maybe takes a bit of wind out of their sails. But with their home support, which, you know, I heard the commentator saying that they are the team of the nation, they are the team of Kazakhstan, I expect it, it's the biggest game in their bloody history, I expect it to be well attended. I don't think it'll be an easy atmosphere. Again, I heard the commentary team talking about it being altitude as well as, you know, the distance travelled or whatever. I do not think it's going to be an easy one, and I'm worried about how we're going to score some goals in this one. Do you know, even with Ralston needing to play this game, let's see how Livingston goes. I expect a lot of rotation. I'm not that worried about conceding goals going away to it. Still, the fear remains is scoring goals, you know, even for the weekend against Livingston. If you're watching this as soon as the video's out, we'll be live tonight for the Thursday night stream, the CSC, to preview the game this weekend, and we'll chat about Kairat Almaty as well. So if you want to tune into that, make sure to turn on the notification bell. It just tells you whenever we go live, as well as when videos come out and stuff like that. Subscribe if you did enjoy the video as well, of course. And yeah, we may not be live, but the Thursday stream is probably out by now, so feel free to check that out. And we'll be live on Friday to just do a weekly catch-up where there'll be a lot more chat interactive on the week that's been, you know, from Jamie Vardy's to Kairat's and everything else that might happen between now and then. Still a press conference to come from Brendan and all that good stuff. On screen now some other stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, please do. Hit the like button, get into the comment section, let me know your thoughts and feelings. Hail, hail, and on the hoops.